Whether it involved icons performing rather embarrassing bumps, top stars refusing to play ball, or the organization not doing what was right on the night, there have been a number of shocking, awkward, or humiliating incidents the AEW president would prefer you to forget ever happened. But they all very much did, so let's talk about them. I am Gareth, this is What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 things Tony Khan wants you to forget about AEW. Number 10, the controversial exits. While the likes of Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill seemingly left AEW on good terms, the same could not be said for some of the other talents that ultimately left TK's organization. Take Big Swole for example. In the wake of leaving the company in November 2021, the wrestler claimed on her call-in show that the reason she didn't re-sign with AEW was down to the fact the promotion lacked structure or diversity. And how did the billionaire boss respond? By defending the company's diversity on Twitter, before bizarrely telling the world he let go of Swole because he didn't think her wrestling was good enough. Very nice. Then you have Ivelisse, who took to social media to accuse a coach of mistreatment and claim Thunder Rosa, her opponent during that infamous September 10, 2020 Dynamite encounter, slandered her name after her release in April 2021. And lastly, you have the latest controversial All Elite exit Khan would like to move on from sharpish, that being CM Punk's firing in September post All In 2023 backstage madness. Releases and exits happen in wrestling, but these are just a few of the uglier departures the AEW president would like his fans to forget about as swiftly as possible. Number 9, the worst punches in wrestling. What should have been a moment that forced the All Elite audience to take this new villainous Dark Order unit seriously towards the end of the December 18, 2019 Dynamite soon turned into one of the most embarrassing beatdowns in wrestling history. And we were only 2 months into weekly All Elite programming. Lovely. After SCU's Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky got the better of the Young Bucks, a bunch of not exactly intimidating creepers surrounded the ring as silly purple lighting washed over the teams. The crowd were already pretty unimpressed by the lame and uninspiring attack about 30 seconds in, and not even the arrival of Kenny Omega and Cody and Dustin Rhodes could shoot some excitement into the flat brawl. Then it happened. One of the unknown masked attackers began throwing the sort of dreadful right hands that accidentally added fuel to the all amateurs wrestling fires. The shot missed Dustin by a country mile. Even 4 years later, you'll struggle to find a more embarrassing All Elite angle, or anyone in the company referencing this terrible TV conclusion. Number 8, many a botched debut. It does seem that for every marvelous All Elite arrival, Tony Khan finds a way to completely drop the ball with a new face in his company on night 1. There was that time AEW introduced a brand new giant into the mix in the form of the massive Satnam Singh, by blacking out the arena and throwing the lights back up to the sound of crickets as the big lad decked Samoa Joe. Andrade El Idolo experienced a similarly underwhelming first night on Dynamite back in June 2021, awkwardly showing up as Vicky Guerrero's new client. And that lasted long, didn't it? Remember when Matt Sydal popped up at All In 2020 as the Casino Battle Royale's Joker? Well, TK probably hopes you don't. His slipping Star Press debut was just about overshadowed by another awful fall on the night. Oh, we'll get there. Cries of "Who are you?" as the Butcher and the Blade crawled into the AEW system, and Miro showing up as a video game obsessed best man are also just a few of the other times Tony got it badly wrong with an AEW newbie. Now I've got a quick question for you. What has been your favorite AEW debut of all time? Let me know in the comment section right down below. Number 7, MJF has left the building. Admittedly, it does seem like AEW are finally finding a way to fold this real life drama into a storyline, with Wardlow finally realizing MJF was the person responsible for destroying all the momentum he'd built up heading into Double or Nothing 2022. However, that still doesn't change the fact that the controversial events that set the stage for Maxwell Jacob Friedman's explosive Dynamite pipe bomb and summer hiatus last year are the sort of awkward moments TK wishes never happened. Before Maxwell decided to shockingly no-show a meet and greet on Double or Nothing weekend, the star was said to have butted heads with his boss over his contract when compared to the deals handed to other top stars in the company. Sure, Khan was ultimately able to convince Friedman to get in the ring at the pay-per-view and put his former bodyguard over, and he even managed to get a viral work shoot promo out of the Salt of the Earth before he eventually made an epic all-out return. But the fact Maxwell had to no-show a fan event to eventually score himself the raise he deserved, being put on more than $1 million a year according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, wasn't the best look. Number 6, the terrible mattress bump. This entry isn't taking anything away from the very real physical punishment each and every performance performer likely experiences whenever they decide to step in between the ropes, or enter a cage on this occasion, and a company doing all they can to protect their workers when they're trying to execute outrageous spots should be saluted. However, if you can't pull off a jaw-dropping moment safely without it looking like a bloke simply jumping off his wardrobe and onto his bed, the wise call would probably be to just move on and try something else, or maybe just not film it in close-up. Sadly though, Chris Jericho, MJF, and Tony Khan clearly didn't get those memos. Feeling they absolutely needed to chuck Le Champion off of the blood and guts structure for the story they were telling back in 2021, the company created a landing area that would ensure a safe fall for the veteran. The only problem was that the way the climactic fall was shot made the entire impact zone look like little more than a crash mat, some empty boxes, and a bit of pretend cardboard steel, which is exactly what it was. The idea was to fool fans into believing Jericho had just been mercilessly sent to his doom, but the way AEW decided to stupidly film this brave fall completely undermined what had been a pretty brutal match up to that point. Number 5, all of the non-Punk Elite backstage drama. Away from all of the backstage mayhem involving Phil Brooks and the Elite in AEW, oh don't worry, we'll get there have been a number of other rather regrettable behind-the-scenes incidents that have grabbed the wrong sort of headlines over the last few years in particular too. Sammy Guevara's high-profile altercations with Eddie Kingston and Andrade El Idolo last year definitely rank as two of the more embarrassing examples of TK struggling to keep the drama in-house. And for the longest time, the real-life heat between various talented performers within the All-Elite women's roster was actually more intriguing than the stories they were telling on screen. For comparison, it's rare to hear of any huge blow-ups going on in the locker room over in the world of sports entertainment, whereas AEW seemingly couldn't go a week without a star firing a shot at their colleague before clashing backstage in 2022 alone. Khan will likely be praying the Punkers' collision with Jack Perry at All in 2023 sits as the last moment of behind-the-curtain madness for some time now, or maybe he'll just book Guevara versus Kingston for the banter in 2024 and invite even more hilarious chaos. Number 4, the All-Out 2020 Matt Hardy incident. The fall that took the attention away from Matt Sydal's awkward arrival at All Out 2020 is a moment that should have taught the company a rather painful lesson. As Matt Hardy went to war with Sammy Guevara that night in a broken rules match, the pair eventually found themselves on top of a scissor lift backstage. Not quite hitting a spear off the machine in the way they had planned though, Hardy ended up being very much broken when the back of his head smacked off the concrete floor. Hardy was clearly not fit to continue, but instead of calling off a match that fans weren't exactly desperate to see conclude anyway, the veteran was allowed to complete the contest, and AEW received a justifiable amount of backlash for their failure to properly intervene. Luckily, the company did respond quickly when Hangman Adam Page was knocked out in his match against Jon Moxley a few years later. But the poor way they handled the latter's recent concussion on Dynamite proves that there's still some room for serious improvement when it comes to wrestler safety in these sort of scary situations. Number 3, Dan Lambert and Brandy Rhodes' dreadful Dynamite promo. The days of Dan Lambert shooting from the hip on the AEW roster feel like a lifetime ago, and that's probably how Tony Khan would prefer it to stay. Now, there were a few highlights in there for sure, like that time he took a nasty Lance Archer blackout in the summer of 2021. But whoever decided it would be a good idea to throw the American Top Team founder into a promo battle with Brandy Rhodes should have really been the one on the receiving end of the Murder Hawk Monsters finisher. Both figures were generating all kinds of go-away heat at the time, with not a single soul in Chicago wanting to sit through the unlikable pair's shots and kayfabe-killing retorts. It was uncomfortable to watch, offensive at times, and was all seemingly done to welcome back a Paige Van Zant, who ultimately ended up doing very little of note after the heelish Lambert's mate beat up, another heel. It was yet another low in the consistently ugly Lambert era of All Elite Wrestling, and a mess the company won't be inviting you to relive on YouTube anytime soon. Number 2, Pac and Adam Page's cancelled Double or Nothing 2019 fight. AEW's first ever press conference in early 2019 brought with it the announcement of two rather exciting new additions to the ever-growing roster: the Elite's Hangman Adam Page and the bastard Pac. The studs ultimately ended up coming face to face during that very event, leading to a hotly anticipated match between the lads being scheduled for the inaugural Double or Nothing pay-per-view. What should have been one of the first of many mouth-watering All Elite blockbuster fights, however, soon turned into one of the company's earliest awkward moments. It also led to a piece of company history TK would no doubt love to erase if given the chance, with Pac reportedly not being happy to do the JOB for the Hangman due to him being the Open the Dream Gate champion for Dragon Gate at the time. The bout was eventually pulled from AEW's first pay-per-view event. Those creative differences then resulted in the first official match in All Elite history actually going down down on a WrestleGate Pro show over in the UK, and ending in a DQ. You love to see it. Number 1, Brawl Out and the Punk saga that followed. Watching the punker swing a sledgehammer at his workplace repeatedly during All Out 2022's infamous press conference was surreal. But perhaps even crazier was the sight of Tony Khan helplessly sitting on and allowing the best in the world to shoot from the hip at his EVPs and biggest stars as he munched muffins with a ripped up triceps. This was merely the beginning of an AEW changing evening, however, as the Elite and Punk would clash backstage not long after, leading to Khan having to suspend all involved and strip them of their gold. A terrible situation, one that could have possibly been solved by demanding all involved sit down in a room and settle their differences, only got more toxic in the months that followed. Khan's attempts to keep his top star and the lads who helped him start this apparent revolution happy by keeping them as far away from one another as humanly possible did not work out. And that failure to take decisive action earlier kept the company under a dark cloud for much of 2023 before Punk's controversial exit in September. TK will want his fans to remember 2023 as the year he crammed tens of thousands into Wembley and debuted another weekly 2-hour TV show. Not as the year he failed to handle a Punk saga that threatened to undo all of the Elite work that had come before it. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Cheers for not forgetting to watch this video today, and hopefully we will see you very, very soon. Bye bye!